What's going on, Hancock County? Mitch Gibson here with the Inside Hancock County podcast. First and foremost, I wanted to thank everybody who donated to the Giving Tuesday last Tuesday for the Hope House. Myself and Eldon DeJarnette. Eldon DeJarnette's the owner of DNA Consulting, their staffing company here in Greenfield. Him and I teamed up, and we were matching dollar for dollar on the donations that you guys donated to on the Facebook page. We were able to raise almost over $1,500, and those donations are still coming in. So we appreciate you guys. The Hope House is doing amazing things, and with the Hope House being the show sponsor, there wasn't a better place in my mind and my heart to donate on this Giving Tuesday last week. So thank you all for doing that. Well, to get the show started, I'm in the Rematch Realty Group Studios here, joined by head football coach over at Mount Vernon High School. If you haven't heard about this guy, he's one amazing individual. He's had nothing but great success from his previous coaching career over at Ben Davis, and within the first couple of years at Mount Vernon, he has changed the culture in the program around 360 degrees. And we can see from the success they had this year. I think you guys only lost one game, Coach. Is that correct?
That's correct. We went 12-1 this season.
12-1 this season, didn't lose a game in the conference, and we're an absolute powerhouse. And like I was telling Coach before he got on the show about why I wanted to have him on. And when you see a program, or when you see even on a business go from maybe struggling to maybe not all the way there where they should be, and someone who steps in with great power and great leadership and passion for what he's doing, you can see that the process is trusted and gained by the community and his athletes, both in the weight room and then on the field, that has made you a mark on that Mount Vernon football program so far. Coming from a Greenfield Central kid, former Mount Vernon Marauder, I commend you for that, and I look forward to the future success. So going into it, first off, thanks for joining the show. Second off, give us a little breakdown about this year. What was it that made it such a successful year? Probably got to be one of the best years in Mount Vernon football history, I would say.
Well, first of all, you had to overcome the whole being locked up starting in March. And I think that's really where it kind of started for us. We immediately set up a program to account for our kids working out while they were in a COVID situation in their homes. And I remember me and my wife made several trips out this way and picked up weights that parents and retired people were willing to donate. We put them in kids' garages and traveled around and did that in numerous places and got a weight program started with kids lifting cinder blocks and backhoes and dragging tires across their backyard so we could keep the conditioning and the lifting, because that was our big concern. Then when we saw we were going to get locked down, is we were going to have to figure out a way to be creative to keep our kids lifting and conditioning and running. And then we had a really good group of seniors and a junior quarterback that kept them also going in May and June, playing 7-on-7 at the local parks, because we weren't allowed on campuses in any way, shape, or form. So when we returned in July, we were real concerned about our conditioning and our strength levels before we even entered the season. And when our kids came back in July, we were pleasantly surprised that our strength had not decreased. In fact, in many ways it had increased, and our conditioning was about what it normally is for that time of the year. Then I think we took a different approach in July than most coaches. Most coaches felt like they had to get out and start practicing because we'd missed all of June. We'd missed our spring workouts. And so they were on the field practicing, and we didn't do that. We decided to install what we call our co-captains program, which is our normal summer program, but it takes away from practice time, but it really is our conditioning program. It is very intense, very physical, and very demanding. And we were getting 100+ kids a night doing that. It's a 2-hour a night running program along with an hour in the weight room. And so instead of practicing 4 days a week, we decided we were only going to practice 1 day a week, but we were going to get them back in shape. We wanted to be mentally tough and physically ready for August. Now, that probably put us a little bit behind in the X's and O's, but we figured over the course of a season that would catch up. We were fortunate and we got out early. We thought our conditioning really paid off in weeks 1 and 2. As teams tired in the second half, we were still playing fast, which allowed us to possibly maybe steal a win here or there. And then once we got going, as you know, having played sports, success feeds itself. And as you start winning, you start believing. And the kids really started buying in. And I think the carryover from 2018 or 19, when we went to the Final Four, had a lot to do with it. We returned a lot of those kids who played in the semi-state and were hungry for more. So I think that was the big issue with us, was just getting them back and getting in shape and then staying healthy in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. You said one word there that I loved, and I think it goes back hand in hand. You said success feeds itself. And you get people to start believing. My head coach, that was my coach at Ball State at the time, Rich Maloney's still there currently, been nothing but successful. And he preaches, actually the first year I was there, the quote was, you got to believe. And that 100% was feeding off of the success that the team had the previous year, going to the MAC or winning the MAC tournament, headed to regionals, big time regional down in Kentucky. So it was one of those things, is like things may not click with you. For me, things didn't click with me too much then, but now listening and talking to other people and hearing and seeing the success you guys have had, it just kind of gives me cold chills to hear that, because that's truly what drives the success. Especially from having a leader and the leadership that you bring and your coaching staff brings to the table, because it's all contagious. And if the leader's not on the same page and the leader's not traveling down the same path as the kids, as the rest of the community, then you're not going to have anyone believing in you and what you're doing. So something that really, and we talked about this a little bit with Mr. Sam Mackle and how I've coached Sam in baseball, a couple of years ago. Phenomenal young boy, but and that's I think where I started learning that he was playing football. Was he was posting videos and tagging you on Twitter of him out back with cinder blocks, or doing, dips on the swing set, or, running up the hill, incline, stuff like that. And you guys were just, in my eyes, no one else was doing it. Maybe I wasn't seeing it, but it's kind of the old blue collar, grab your lunch pail and work helmet, and we're going to show up and get to work today. And that's what I love. So that's pretty cool stuff. And that's a phenomenal story. A lot of people don't see that, and the fact that you took time out of your own day and went around, that's cool stuff. So
it actually worked really well for us. We were putting so much out there of what our kids were doing that we actually ended up in a international workout magazine, and I actually had to do 2 interviews similar to this. One that went internationally, to where I was talking to strength coaches in 12 different countries, Ireland, South, all over South America, about how we were able to get our kids to do things like this during a COVID situation. And they actually put pictures of our kids out there and lifting cinder blocks and doing that, and showing how you can be creative in a COVID and still maintain your level of expectation of your athletes.
Isn't that awesome though? Like that's just so cool to think about. I enjoy, like, I've been on a couple of podcasts here and there for insurance, or for this. There's a motivational podcast this guy has me on all the time. It's super cool to think that I'm just going on. But when you go internationally with it and you're starting to get into a magazine, I mean,
right. When you're starting to answer questions from people from Ireland and Great Britain, and you're like, man, I'm sitting here talking to you guys, and you're wanting to know how I did this, and it's, and I said, and one thing I told him, I said, we may have set the program for them to do, but it was really the kids wanting to be successful that takes it to another level, because they could have just posted something and lied and only did 30 seconds of a workout and disappeared, and I wouldn't have never known. But knowing with the way they came back physically in July, told me they actually took the whole thing very seriously.
That's awesome. And the accountability aspect of it, I know even I saw some kids that were, it was like they were challenging each other. Like, oh, I'm doing this, I challenge so-and-so, or I challenge so-and-so to do this much more. And they were doing it back and forth. So it was super cool. You guys blew up Twitter. You guys killed it. and your off-season workouts and the mindset that you set in their mind is, I think, what won the year. Even through a year of such adversity that we've had. I'm a big believer that adversity, you can't be successful without having adversity. And you had adversity early. You guys had adversity early on prior to the season, just like everyone else. You figured out ways to make that work and make your guys better, which was contagious. But was there a certain point in your career, whether it was family or life, that adversity hits you that has made times of change like this become a little bit more easier?
This one may get a little lengthy here. I'm going to share a story with you that changed my coaching. And I'd been coaching a long time when this happened, but I was down in San Antonio, Texas at the AFCA, American Football Coach Association's national convention. And at this convention, on a given year, there's about 8,000 high school and college coaches at this convention. And on this given day, the keynote speaker, I want to say, was Mark D'Antonio. And he gets up, and there's at least 7,000 people in this room listening to him talk. And he's talking, he's motivational. He was great talk, really loved it. The next talk was going to be Bobby Bowden and Jim Tomei, and Jim Tomei passed away a couple years ago. They got ready to talk, and of those 7,000 coaches sitting there, only about 300 of us stayed. Like most conventions, it's a party atmosphere, and social issues wasn't an X's and O's or motivational. Well, when I go to those things, I go purely to learn. I don't have any other motives, usually go by myself. So I stayed and listened, and then turned out to be a life-changing event for me and how I coached. I was always a do what I tell you, coach. I'm going to bark if you don't do what I tell you. You're going to, not that I don't raise my voice, because I do. But Bobby Bowden starts talking about how every year with his seniors at Florida State, he does a little activity in the winter called Share Your Life Story. And the kids all sit there in the room, and each kid goes around and tells how they got to where they are, what their home life was like. And he said you would hear all kinds of stories. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I wonder what that would look like with high school kids. Because up till this point, I was coaching to win. I was coaching to win championships, and I wasn't coaching kids. And there's a different mindset with that. So I come home from the convention, and back then at Ben Davis, kids would come to my house once a month, senior leaders, anywhere from 25 to 30 kids. My wife would feed them, and we'd do, all right, this week we'll do John Wooden's Pyramid of Success, and we'll analyze it, And so the kids were all in my living room at my house at Ben Davis. And I said, all right, get your chairs in a circle, and you could see their face. All right, this is going to be another one of those meetings. We're going to talk. And I said, today we're not doing any writing. I said, we're going to get in a circle. And I said, we're going to go around the room, and we're going to share your life story. And I got the response I thought I would get, where every kid almost looked to the ground and said, I'm not doing this.
You're right.
And I said, all right, I'm going to break the ice here, and I'm going to tell you my life story. And I'm going to tell you about being brought home by the police in the 7th grade because I was in trouble. And I did some good things. I did some bad things, but my life was pretty good growing up. And I said, and so then I said, I'm going to pick the next kid. And I thought I knew this kid really well. The kid lived 5 houses away from me in my neighborhood on the west side. Knew his mom, knew his dad, come down to my house to play basketball. His name was Anthony. And I thought I knew him. And from this point on, and for the next 2 hours, I didn't speak. The kids did all the talking. And this young man, Anthony, is a fireman in California, has a wife and 2 kids, graduated from Wabash College. He starts talking about his mom, his dad, and how great his life is. And he says, and then he got real quiet, and he said, but Coach, I don't get to see my family. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean? He goes, see, my dad's black and my mom's white, and our families do not believe in interracial marriages, so we're not allowed to ever go to our families.
Oh, wow. And
I'm thinking, all of a sudden it's starting to kick in. I don't know my kids. I know them as football players, but I don't know them as people. And that's not a coaching. That's not the way you should coach. So we go around the room. The next kid, Zach, graduated from St. Francis, really good life growing up. And I knew his family really well. All of a sudden we get to about the 4th or 5th one in, and this kid's rolling up his sleeves. And I'm like, what's he doing? He's rolling up his sleeves. And all of a sudden he rolls up his sleeves and he holds out his wrist and he says, Coach, I want you to look at these. These scars are where I tried to kill myself.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on in these kids' lives that I am unaware of anything that's happening, but yet I tell them when to lift, how to lift, when to practice, show up on time. And if you don't show up on time, I'm going to run your suspension. I'm threatening you. But you're dealing with something so tragic in your life that I'm missing the point here. When we go around the room, there were 25 kids in the room. And by the time we get to the last one, my wife is in the kitchen and she has been crying for over an hour. She's emotionally and physically spent because all she wants to do is hug every one of these boys and tell them they're loved. We get to the last one, Michael, and Michael sadly did not make it. He's in prison, and he's going to be in prison for a long time. But he's holding his head, and if you ever vision that little boy crying so hard about something, the tears are so big, and emotionally he's spent, and he's almost screaming at me that, Coach, they tell me I'm crazy, is what he kept repeating. They tell me I'm crazy. And finally, I broke my silence. I said, Michael, who says you're crazy? He said, Coach, when I was in middle school or when I was in 6th grade, I saw my mama get beat up by her boyfriend, and I swore if I ever saw him again, I'd fix it. When I was in the 8th grade, Coach, I'm walking home from middle school, and I see him in the parking lot across from my apartments. I run to my house, and I get my bat, and I beat him, and I beat him bad. And he looks at me with these big eyes and the tears rolling down his cheeks, and he says, Coach, please tell me I'm not crazy. And I thought to myself when this was over, what am I doing? I'm so obsessed with winning football games and putting my name out there and holding up the standard that Dick Dellahan had set at Ben Davis, winning 7 state titles, that I forgot I'm coaching people, and people that need to be loved, and people that have a story. And here's the reality. Once I stopped coaching football to win and started coaching football for the relationships, the winning just happened. We started winning in leaps and bounds, sectional championship in 11, conference championship in 12, conference championship in 13, state championship in 14, Final Four in 16, state championship in 17, Final Four in 19 at Mount Vernon, another conference and sectional championship at 20 at Mount Vernon, because I stopped worrying about whether or not we were going to win. Not that I don't want to win, Coach. Don't misconstrue. I want to win so bad it kills me sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's about knowing that Sam Mackel's okay. It's about knowing that A.J. Swingle's okay. That in the end is the win that we're after. And it took me a long, long time to get there. And I had to be hit over the head. And to this day, I think the good Lord made me stay for that conference and said, you need to sit here and listen, because this is Bobby Bowden and Jim Tomei are going to change your life and how you can help change other people's lives for the better. I know that was a long-winded story, but that was transformational for me.
That's amazing. And that's why I told, while everybody doesn't know kind of how the show kind of works sometimes, is I do pre-record these usually a week or 2 weeks in advance before they're showed. But before we started talking, I said, Coach, the less I know about you right now, the better. I like getting the feel. Like I literally had tears getting ready to come out of my eyes about that story. I just tell about the young boy coming home and that beat the guy that beat his mother. Yeah. You're right. You just don't know. And we're seeing a lot of that stuff, and not through just this pandemic, but between the disconnection of our humanity is sad. It really is. And just come together as one. And you see it. I was watching the, give me 1 second here. We're good. I was watching good old Michigan State, Duke basketball game, and Duke's got the, unity on the back of their jerseys. And a lot of the NBA guys are like that. And it's sad to see that it comes to, leaving it to it's not sad, but it's great that our sports teams are having to be being on the forefront of trying to help everyone understand, because they are on the big stage. They're the ones that we're watching on television. They're the ones that our kids are following on social media. to learn about the adversity that's put you in a situation that's made you so successful is amazing, because everyone's got a story. I'm 25 years old and I have a story. I mean,
Sure.
what I've gone through at 25 already and have 2 kids and things that I went through, it's made me who I am right now. It's made me want to learn more about other people, because you're right. And when I coach, a lot of people ask me, or when, in the summertime when I'm coaching this baseball team, guy comes up to me, his dad, and says, "Hey, what's Johnny going to need to do to play this position? Or what's Johnny got to do here? What's Johnny got to do there? Why didn't he play?" At the end of the day, there's a reason for why I'm doing what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, Johnny's got to understand I'm doing this to help him become a better man and a person for when he's done, when he hangs the cleats up and says, "I can't play sports anymore." There's a reason why I'm doing it. And it's not to sit there and try to get to Sunday and win championships. We get to Sunday, we're going to play more games. That's great. But if Johnny doesn't understand and learn why that happened, or we're not on the same page, Johnny's not going to have a successful career no matter what he's doing.
Correct.
So
and sports is such
that's what I love about it.
Sports is such a short part of their lives. Parents sometimes don't understand that. They think the kids are going to play forever. But my 3 kids are all grown. They were all college athletes, but it's over. They're on to their own lives and working every day and trying to do the right thing and raise families of their own. So Absolutely. It was, like I said, it was very transformational for me. What I was able to do from there, and what I continue to do. I often get asked, well, why Mount Vernon? You won the state championship in 2017 at Ben Davis, went 14-0, ranked nationally top 10, if there is actually such a poll. I don't know how anybody can gauge any of that. But, all the accolades that came with it. That year I coached in the Army All-American game. My quarterbacks were Tua Tagovailoa and Jake Fromm from Georgia. Those are the kind of kids I was, and I had all, and I said, you know what? I felt like I'd kind of run my course at Ben Davis. There were some off-field issues that had gotten to the point where, I tell the story. I've had 13 kids at Ben Davis shot and killed in my time as a head coach there. And that was the stress of that was when I wanted a new challenge. I wanted to see if I could take what I'd built at Ben Davis and build it someplace else. And I know when I first got to Mount Vernon, it was a little bit of a challenge. I got there in April of 2018, started the weight room right away as classes. I was not received well at all. It was very different. The way they'd run it before was kind of show up and do what you please. Mine was very structured. You're going to do it. There were athletes that said, I have a game tomorrow. I don't lift before the day of a game. Well, that doesn't work. And then I had the principal allowed me to call all the athletes into the auditorium. And in fact, we were talking about this with my seniors this year. So there was 300 and some athletes in the auditorium. And I explained how we're going to move forward and change a culture at Mount Vernon. And kids started laughing at me. And I bowed up and told them what I thought and told them why they're average and why you're only as good. You guys are happy to be on Mount Vernon's team. You have no vision of something greater. I remember the football players turning around and telling the rest of their classmates to be quiet, that we're going to listen and we're going to change. And I thought that's what I'm here for. Yep. Change a culture.
You were talking about the culture at Mount Vernon and how it's kind of changed in a whole. You talked about the basketball team always being phenomenal, and it just goes back to the leaders and who you guys are hiring and inspiring. I love that actually the general manager at the new GM here at Remax, he was a successful real estate agent out in Virginia Beach, and he came here and he likes to call his title the manager of directing, of hiring and inspiring. And I love that. And I think that a lot of places and high schools that are trying to get, inspiring coaches in there have been great. So talk to us a little bit about the change in culture at Mount Vernon and the things that have been going on, especially with the coaches that you guys that have been hired there.
Yeah, well, when I got there in April of 2018, the first thing we had to do was change a culture in the weight room. And fortunately for us, we had a group of coaches that were wanting success at a different level. Our head girls basketball coach, Julie Shelton, saw the need for it. We brought in Ben Rhodes as our boys basketball coach, and we'd worked together for 7 years at Ben Davis. So we were very familiar with what we wanted to do culture-wise in the weight room. Once we got that culture shifted, a lot of the coaches started seeing a change in their kids physically, not just in the physical aspect of lifting and strength and speed development, but also in their toughness, because they're pushing themselves to new limits. We've had a lot of success in other sports now. Our boys track coach does Bruce Kendall has been there 47 years. He's been there forever. He was telling me last year he puts his track kids, sprinters, jumpers, throwers, through this 10-point test. And it's a standing broad jump, and they get so many points for all these different agility tests he puts them through. And if you're over a 19 on the final test, you're considered very explosive. He came to me at the end of the test in February before COVID hit and said this is the most sprinters he's ever had test above 19 in his 47 years. So he said, whatever you're doing, don't quit doing it. I've never had this kind of explosion out of kids. So he was all fired up, and then obviously the season got canceled and he didn't get to run them. So we've been able to change a culture in the weight room and understanding how that carries over to the field. Baseball coaches are talking to me, and I haven't coached baseball since 1990, so I'm out of the loop. But the speed from pop to throw to second base for their catchers, their bat speed, all this they're telling me is better than it's ever been. And so they're really excited. The softball coach, same thing. All her girls are in the weight room with us training, and everybody's really excited. I live in the community out here now, and I'm out and about, and me and my wife just moved last June. And so hearing people talk about what we're able to do and the excitement in the community and the Fortville community and things like that is a lot of fun.
Well, that's awesome to hear. And you talked about the explosiveness and the metrics. I've noticed with baseball, the metrics of the game of baseball have changed immensely. And you're right. It's the power, the explosiveness, because it still kind of is, but it used to be like projectability. Okay, this guy's a 6'5" right-handed pitcher. Well, you can't teach 6'6" or 6'5", the guy that throws, but we can teach him to get stronger and teach him to throw harder. Or used to go back to, he's a lefty. Yep, he's going to play college somewhere because he's left-handed. But to spin rate, launching, it's just technology has taken over the world. And even we talked about technology in school, how it's so hard to teach through e-learning. The sports are the same way, and it's kind of made me kind of mind-boggling with the use of social media for sports and recruiting. Yes. I'm not sure about football as much, but I do know baseball. Baseball's Twitter's a big recruiting platform for baseball, and I think it's crazy. Because a lot of people think they got to go here, there, and everywhere all over the country just to get seen. Well, first off, if you're good enough, you're going to get seen.
Correct.
Okay. And second of all, if you feel like you have to go on social media and post your player profile just so coaches can see it, you have that sense of, are they really going to see it? So right. I think it goes hand in hand with having a coach that follows with it, that understands it, that has those connections and those communications with those college coaches. How's Twitter and social media affected football and the recruiting scheme?
Well, it didn't used to be a real big deal until COVID hit. Now we're not allowed, the Division I's, Division II's, they're not allowed to be recruiting. They're not allowed to be in our school. They're not allowed to come watch us. They can't come visit with the kids. So if I send them, I've got 4 or 5 kids on my 2021 group, my next year's group, that are possible Division I kids. So I'm sending out the film, and that's the only way they're going to get it right now. The way Twitter really helps football is it allows the college coaches to communicate legally with my high school kids, because this is considered a dead period, so they can't text them, they can't call them, but my players can DM them and start communication. So as I send out film, like I just send out film on one of my big offensive linemen, who's also a really good basketball player. He's 6'3", 260, and I think he can play at the MAC level. I sent out the film last week. He came to me Monday and said, what do I do? These coaches are all following me on Twitter now. I said, you need to follow back and then DM them and let them know you're following them. And if you have any questions, to let you know. So that's how we're beginning the communication process. Where kids can get confused is they think by posting it themselves, that's going to make them get recruited. A lot of times the colleges, and my son-in-law is the football coach at IU, he says we don't even pay attention to that because a kid he goes, we wait for the coach to send us something, or we'll call the coach and say, hey, who do you have? And then we'll start the process. I'm not sure about all the other sports. Like I said, I haven't, and I laughed when you said left-handed pitchers, because the one year I coached baseball was at Arlington, and we had a left-handed pitcher named Jeff Potter. And we unfortunately drew the #1 team in the state in the first round of sectionals, which was Cecina at the time. And Potter went out and threw all 7 innings, and we beat him 3-2. We had a couple kids who could play. Well, the next game we had to play Warren Central, who had kids like Jamie Asher, who got drafted in the NFL, and they were loaded. And we were down 15-1 in the third because we didn't have any pitchers left. You know, we only had the one pitcher at Arlington. It was kind of comical because one of the best baseball players on that team at Cecina at the time is one of my assistants now. And we laugh about that often, about how good they were. I think they only lost 2 games all year, and one of them was us. And we were awful. We weren't good at all. We were only good when Jeff Potter, the lefty, threw. So, Twitter's had an effect, but football, unlike baseball and basketball, where the travel world is such a big deal and those coaches in the summer can come watch. Football, you're limited to the football season, which is the same season as them. So they really rely on high school coaches to still help them quite a bit. I know with basketball and some of them, it's not as prevalent because they can watch them in the summer and make a determination on whether or not they can play at the next level.
Right. And I think you hit it right on the head. It's finding, and I don't want to get into, being an outside of a school district transfer stuff in that nature. That's just a different breed and conversation I don't really like to talk about because that's where you grew up. That's where, that's politics stuff we won't get into, but trying to find it, whether it's a summer coach or strength training coach or somebody that's going to make you physically better to help you out with your game in the process of being recruited. Actually, one of my best friends, childhood best friends, him and his brother, both went to University of Tennessee, and actually they would have been Mount Vernon guys if they didn't move to Minster, Ohio. They're my fifth and sixth grade year. And then Eli, the younger brother of the two, took his 5th year and went and played at Georgia with Fromm. And so I want to talk to you about something before once we get done recording here, and then ask you if you got a connection here, because I think it'd be pretty cool to get together. But if not, we can figure something out. But Ethan, his older brother, the one that's my age, he went to UT and then was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Titans. He's been through 7 or 8 different clubs. He's now back with the Saints. Was with the Colts here for the last couple of weeks. Back with the Saints, and just got the practice squad offensive player of the year. And we were talking on the phone yesterday, and he says, Mitch, he said, you just go through so many clubs and you learn so much about it, different coaches, whether it's your defensive coach, whether it's your offensive coach. He says, out of the clubs I've been to, because I just feel like every single coach on this club has added value to me. And that clicked. I'm like, I love that. Finding somebody that's going to add value to you, that you can add value back. Because it all starts with that guy who's going to be, leading that team, and being able to add value is absolutely amazing. And obviously with the recruiting, that's big. I mean, if you're playing a sport at a high level, you've probably got one goal. I mean, you've got to go to play at the next level at the college level. And if you're good enough, then getting the opportunity to play somewhere else. So, finding value in a coach is extremely important. And that's going to not only just take care of you as a player, but as a man. So, the big thing, my main goal, and I think I've said it on the 2 episodes ago with the head basketball coach at Greenfield Central. If you haven't talked to Luke Meredith, Mike, you guys would absolutely click off really well. The dude is energetic.
Actually, I know Luke very well.
Okay, great.
He was at Ben Davis for a short period of time as an assistant when I was the head football coach there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked last year when Mount Vernon played. I do the book for the boys basketball.
Okay.
And we talked. He came over and sat and talked with me for a while before the game.
That's cool. Small world. I didn't know Luke from anything. And my little brother Carson, who plays baseball, he thinks I don't know why he's decided he's playing basketball or something. But I heard nothing but great things about the guy. I was like, I got to get him on the show.
Yeah, he's high energy.
Yeah, absolutely high energy. And I'm like, I got to get this dude on the show. But he talks a mad game about just, trying to be a mentor for these kids. And that's what I love. Like, I want to be that guy who helps them get to the next level. But once they go get a job application or they need help doing something in college, I want them to be able to have one person in the back of their mind. Okay, I need to call Coach Gibson, or I need to call, Coach Mike over at Mount Vernon, whatever it may be.
Right.
That to me, that's what gives me joy and passion about the game. So,
absolutely.
As we kind of get round back into learning more about you, I know with technical difficulties yesterday, we were right in the middle of this when our internet kind of crashed on us and went out, but that's just technology, and we'll regroup and get back at it here. So with now, you said you moved back over you moved into Fortville in June. You're kind of in the Maxwell area now. Now that you've had some time to sit back, what's one of your favorite places to eat, or your family's favorite places to go enjoy, whether it's after a Friday night football game or family Sunday meal? Where's your spot?
Well, to be honest with you, our favorite spot is to order a Mozzi's pizza. Not necessarily go sit in the restaurant, but actually have a Mozzi's pizza. We loved them when my parents live in Greenfield. We really loved the Mozzi's pizza. And then I'd say our second best place is B-Dubs. In fact, we had wings last night, Thursday night wings. So love B-Dubs. But, we've ventured out. Fortville's got a really neat Italian place we've eaten at. And we love Applebee's. We love the Greenfield little strip there because there's so many different places you can eat, and the Cracker Barrel. So we're pretty, our kids are all gone and grown, so we eat out probably more than we should, but we enjoy the time away from the house and just eating different foods.
What's that Italian place in Fortville?
Terry, what's the name of the Italian place? Constantina's? No.
I know there's I was thinking of Kinsey's is in McCordsville though.
Kinsey's, we have that every night on Friday for the football team. That's
cool.
Who feeds us, Kinsey's. It's not Kinsey's. That's actually in downtown Fortville. My wife's looking it up. I'm trying to think of the name. It's no really worries. Good. We went there for our 37th wedding anniversary.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks. So,
that's pretty big goal and pretty cool accomplishment, to be honest.
Yeah, my parents just celebrated what was their 65th, I think.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, congratulations. Now I will ask you, because I've had guests bring it up on the show a couple of times. I had Terry Stacy from 93.1 WIBC on the show a couple of weeks ago, and that was another technology failure we had going on. I don't have the video, but I did catch all the audio. But Terry had asked, because she's a community freak. She loves community. She loves giving back. But she's at the end of her retirement stage after just being introduced into the Broadcast Hall of Fame. And Terry asked, she goes, Mitch, I got one question for you. She says, what does Hancock County need, or what does Greenfield need? I go, there's just something about soft serve ice cream that, kind of reminds me of going to the beach, on vacation and going to the little ice cream shop, and they, get a big scoop of that nice soft serve ice cream on top of a waffle cone. And it's the best thing in the world. And she says, you know what, that's probably a pretty hot, popular commodity. And I had a lot of people, shoot me on my messenger and asking me, saying the same thing. Oh, ice cream would be all soft serve ice cream would be great. But then I think about the Libby's.
Yes. Which I was just getting ready to say.
I love that place.
After we went, the name of the restaurant is Cortona's.
Okay.
And then right after that, we went to Libby's and had ice cream. So love that place. We take
Libby's
our grandsons there when they come over.
Well, I don't know. I think it's maybe because one of the Facebook pages or something that I follow, maybe it was like the Fortville Business Center or something. They posted it, and I said, Shelby, we got to get in the car now. There's a soft serve ice cream place in Fortville, and we're out. And we did. It was awesome. I love that place. You got a favorite flavor of ice cream?
For me, really just chocolate chip. Cookie dough ice cream, something like that. I'm a really big chocolate shake guy, to be honest with you. Because when we went to Libby's the last time, they all had dipped ice cream, and I had a chocolate shake. I'm a big chocolate shake guy.
That's awesome. I do have a couple more questions here, and I'll let you get on your way. I took this question from another guy, but it leads into a phenomenal answer usually. And it's actually an insurance guy that I was on his podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I was not prepared for it at all, but I came up with one hell of an answer. The question is, so there's two things that we have in this world, and it's luck and skill. Okay. What would you say, either one of the two, what would you say has led you to be successful in the role that you've been put in today?
Well, I'd like to say just a little bit of being in the right place at the right time. And some people would call that luck. I started my coaching back many years ago at Warren in the football program, and then Arlington at baseball. And then I transitioned to being a teacher. And when I left the accounting profession, I took a pretty good cut in pay to be a teacher. And then I decided to leave Warren Central and take a job as the head coach at Cascade, took another cut in pay. I was also in the right place at the right time, but I was also willing to take a chance. And some people never really get to reach their level of happiness or success that maybe they want because they're afraid of stepping out of their comfort zone. I was never afraid of going backward to go forward. And I knew I could stay at Warren Central and be comfortable being assistant and never get to be a head coach, because a lot of big schools don't look at you and as a head coach until you gained experience. So I took a chance knowing that Cascade was a place that was tough to win. My first year as a head football coach at Cascade, we won. I can count on one hand how many games we won. I'll start at 0 and not go any higher because we didn't win a game. And you talk about humbling. You came from Warren Central where you're pretty much respected as a football coach, and all of a sudden you don't win a game. You know, we were ahead at halftime in 6 of those 9 games and ran out of gas in the second half because we weren't physically in shape. They didn't lift before I got there. We were just running out. And the next year we went 6-3. So we kind of righted the ship. But humbling because it's like all of a sudden you begin to question, do I have this? Do I have what it takes to motivate these kids, to get these kids to understand work ethic, and then for them to see the fruits of their labor on the field? And then took another chance and went back to being an assistant in 2000 at Ben Davis because I wanted to experience what it was like to play for a Hall of Fame coach like Coach Delahan, who had won 9 state, when he retired, he won 9 state titles. And also I had a son who was going to be a freshman who I felt like could play at a pretty high level. And he did. He ended up starting on 2 state championship teams and getting a college scholarship to play football out of it. And so, you know, took another leap of faith that I would get a chance down the road again. And so I believe a lot in faith. I really do. I think it has a lot to do with where we're going and how we're getting there. And I think God kind of guides us in directions that we're supposed to go. But I also believe you have to get out and take a chance. You know,
Absolutely.
You know, and then when the Mount Vernon thing came open, I was on the point of thinking I was just going to teach my last few years at Ben Davis and be done. And when the Mount Vernon job opened up, and believe it or not, I interviewed for it in '94. And I was one of 2 finalists when Doug Peacock got it. Me and Doug Peacock have been friends ever since. It's kind of funny that I'm full circle here. But I decided that I would look into it just to see, and they offered me the job literally that night. You know, the meeting lasted an hour, and the superintendent offered me a job. And I said, I'm going to take some time. I want to make sure I want to coach again and not just do it because it feels good. And so I didn't make a decision. That was early December, and I didn't make a decision till end of January. I went to their basketball games, their wrestling meets. I wanted to see the school climate. I wanted to see the kind of kids. I wanted to see how they competed on the court. You know, is there something there that if we went there, we could make something happen? And then I wanted to make sure it was a right fit administratively with me and how I do things. And it is. They've been unbelievably supportive and going out of their way to accommodate what we need to help the culture be successful in all levels, academically, athletically, and everything. So long-winded answer, but faith, luck, taking chances. and not blaming somebody else because I didn't take the chance, and a family that's unbelievably supportive all the time with all the things I do.
Yep. I love that answer. And that's I love asking, because that question could go in 27 different ways.
Yep.
And I love it. It kind of brings out the person that I'm interviewing there. So I do like that. One thing I did get the chills again. We're talking about humbling, very humbling experience, or, being humbled. Another Rich Maloney, head baseball coach at Ball State, quote that I always remember. He said, there's two people. There's those that are humble, or those that are about to be humbled. And I love that, man.
That's excellent.
He always has those best little quotes that just have always stuck in my mind, and that's just back with having a coach that's added value. So,
right.
Last question here. Pretty good, serious one. I've got a lot of I've got a lot of listeners and viewers in the Hancock County area over the age of 30, 40 plus, but I do have a good amount of listeners that are under the age of 20, 25. And for those guys, those people, male or female, they've either on their way to college, or they're in the middle of trying to figure out a decision in life of what they're doing. So for those listeners, or for anybody going through something or looking for their next step, if you could give anybody a piece of advice, what would be a pretty good piece of advice you could give to those kids?
Well, I'd tell them to take a chance. When I was quitting my accounting job and career and giving that up, I had a whole lot of people saying I was crazy. In fact, my high school head coach, who at the time was the AD at Warren Central, believe it or not, we were at Jeff George's signing. Jeff George had just been drafted by the Colts, and I was good friends with Jeff's older brother, so we got to go to the signing party. And he says, you come back to me in 5 years after you do this, because he goes, Mike, I think you're making a big mistake, and you tell me you did the right thing. And I said, well, after 5 years, I walked into his office, because he was the AD at Warren, and I'm coaching and teaching at Warren. And he goes, yep, I remember the conversation. He goes, what's your answer? I said, absolutely the best thing I ever did. and don't be afraid. You might get knocked down. You might get humbled. You might go backwards. It probably isn't always going to turn out the way you hoped, but move on. It's okay. It's like I tell kids in football all the time. It's okay to make a mistake. It's not okay to keep making the same mistake. And then along the way, you've got to help people move forward. You can't just focus on yourself and not bring somebody along with you. And one of the best quotes I ever had was especially when you're working with young people, is they don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care. All right. And if you care about people along the way, somebody's going to help you in turn. When I got the job at Ben Davis, it was because I had worked for 10, 15 years for Coach Delahan at camps. And he saw how hard I worked and the passion I had for coaching. And he tried hiring me in 94 and 96. And then he finally hired me in 2000. And he said, I've been trying to hire you for three different times. This is going to be my last chance. I really want you to come work. And I took another leap of faith. I left from being a head coach back to an assistant because I thought it was a good opportunity to learn from somebody new again. And here I am, a head coach of multiple sports, and I'm going back to learn, because you can never stop learning. I'm reading a book right now about a Navy SEAL and how he struggled growing up, abusive dad, got beat up, left, moved to Brazil, Indiana, only black kid in Brazil, Indiana, and the abuse he took for being the only black kid, and how he got up one morning and said, and I just finished the second chapter, and he said, I got up one morning, I'm looking in the mirror, and my hair's everywhere, and my pants are below my butt, and I said, you know what? It's not Trump's fault. It's not my mom's fault. It's not my abusive dad's fault. It's my fault. I shaved my head. I shaved my face. I pulled my pants up, and I decided I'm going to be different because it's my decision. And sometimes we forget we're a product of our own choices. Yep. And we got to make good ones, and we got to get up every morning, pull our pants up, and go to work.
I agree. I love that. And you talked about just being passionate. I don't know if you can see my shirt, but
yep.
That's just passion. I had these made because that's, I try to develop my own little personal, it was totally for myself. I wasn't planning on doing anything with it. I was like, January, I was like, I need to come up with my own personal brand that's going to help develop who I am, for people to know who they're buying insurance from, or who their coach is, or who they're interviewing with. So it made that connection to where, okay, it's Mitch Gibson. Okay, it's Mitch Gibson who they're talking to, and the big thing in mind is passion. If you don't have passion for it, have passion and energy towards what you're doing, then it's probably something that's really not something you need to continue with. So I appreciate you reiterating that for me. It helps reminds me and helps keep me pushing down the right path there. Well, I know I've taken up quite a bit of your time, and I do appreciate you coming back on this morning.
Oh, no problem.
The little technical difficulties we had yesterday. You just won't be the last time I have you on. Hopefully we can do a little broadcast or show. At the sometime in the next year or so, and we can get some football guys on and kind of have a cool little maybe a little coach's corner talk or something like that, and have some fun things to talk about. So, Coach, I appreciate everything you're doing. I commend you for that. I don't care if people say the rival schools, rivalry this, rivalry that. I love what you're doing. I love what everybody is, all these coaches are doing to help make these kids better and compete on and off the field in the classroom, and on the football field and even in life. So, keep on doing what you're doing. Keep being a life coach. I think that's probably the best thing that might brand yourself there. So, keep up the good work. Let me know if there's anything I can ever do for you guys over in Fortville or even in the football team. I'm up to help out in any possible way, especially for a genuine guy like yourself. So thank you so much for your time today, Coach.
Thank you. You take care. Have a good weekend.
Will do. Thanks for everybody again for joining the show today. I'd like to appreciate our show sponsor, the Hope House Thrift Store over on Pearson Street off of State Road 9 here in Hancock County. Also, thanks Mark Dudley, Sue Mize, and Hart Sumeyer for giving me the opportunity to put a beautiful studio inside the Rematch Realty Group office off of 9 in Greenfield, Indiana. Once again, thanks, Coach, for stepping on the show today. Hope everyone has a phenomenal rest of your day, and always remember that you can make a difference, Hancock County. Talk to you soon. Have a great weekend.